Hey everybody, we are live. Welcome to another edition of Boston Straight Shooters. I'm your host for this evening, Steve, aka Negative Ned. Frank is away on business, so we'll do my best to hold down the fort. This is a show where we talk about the Bruins, the Patriots, the Red Sox, and the Celtics. Get you all caught up on the last goings on week of what happened with those guys. Uh, we have a great show because we have, for the most part, a lot of winning going on. So without further ado, we'll get going. I'm gonna make an attempt here to post a link for everybody so you guys can join the show. And let's see what we can do here. There's that. Let's see. Let's do that. Let's do this. All right. I think we're good. Let's get started. Let's get started with the hottest team in the NHL, the Boston Bruins. I am definitely shocked at their winning streak. After last night, they've won 7 in a row. I do not see that coming at all, and I have to give them a lot of credit for the way they've been playing. So over the last week, when Frank was on, they were in the middle of playing Ottawa, and I thought they would lose that game, and then split with the Leafs. That didn't happen. They actually beat Ottawa that game, and then they ended up beating Toronto back to back. Once up there 5-3, and here last night 5-3. Listen, they're playing tough, gritty, up and down hockey. Marco Stern's pushing all the right buttons. I'll get to last night's game in a minute, but it had like a rivalry, hated playoff type atmosphere feel to it. So let me start off with Ottawa. Linus Ullmark was in net, and we had Korpisalo on our end. He was pretty solid. They get the 3-2 win up there. They get goal. They're getting goals. Sean Corrali scored a goal. It's key, I think. The guys, as I called Ocean State job lot bums, when they got signed. Corrali scored a goal. I think one of the other games, Icy Mont scored a goal or two. So listen, they're getting contributions, and when the season started and when they signed all these guys, I've been saying that there's going to be a lot of 2-1, 3-2, close, low-scoring games. They're scoring 4-5, 4-5, whatever. They're scoring a lot more goals than I thought that they would be able to, and so I give them a ton of credit. I also, like I said, give Sturm credit because he took Mason Lohrei out of the lineup for 5 games, lined up in the press box, because, as I mentioned on here, last week and probably a number of times last year, defensively he's been such a liability, and it's unfortunate because offensively he's got a ton of upside, ton of talent. He helps the second unit on the power play, sometimes the first unit here and there. And so it's not a guy you really want to give up on, young guy. They just signed him to a 2-year deal for $3.2 million a year. And he doesn't have the option to be sent to Providence. Otherwise, I think they probably would have done that. So, look, he mixed up the pairings. He put Zadarov with McAvoy. I think that's helped McAvoy a lot. That pairing has been pretty strong. Getting Hampus Lindholm back has been a huge help. And on the power play too, he's been out there on some power play time. And so, surprisingly too, their power play scoring goals. I want to say they're in the 20, 3-ish% maybe. Which last year they were 15%. They were horrible. They were near the bottom. So for them to be where they are now, I think they're like 13th maybe in the league. Pretty damn good. So can't really knock them. Morgan Geeky continues to score goals. He's way ahead of last year's pace. Last year he got 33 goals, but during the first 20 games, he only had 2 goals. And I was ready to ship him out here. Shows you what I know. But he's been good for them. 11 goals. I think he's tied for 3rd maybe or 4th in the league. And that's been huge. Listen, they went up to Toronto in a tough environment and got a 5-3 win up there. Swayman stopped 30 of 33 shots. He's been solid. Like I said earlier on, he's been sharp for the most part in most of the games, except for that Buffalo game where they got the Ottawa game where they got the doors blown off 7-2. He's played up to snuff, I would say. They are giving up goals. They're having breakdowns, and they do need to clean some of that up because it's not sustainable over the long haul. Luckily, they're scoring, so it's offsetting. But if they go into a slump and you're giving up 3 goals, 4 goals, it's going to be a problem. So they got a little work to do there. But overall, they've been solid. They've been getting contributions from everybody. Fraser Minton scored a goal in that game. They got 5 different goal scorers in that first Maple Leaf game. So, it's good that they're not just relying on Geeky and Pasta and nobody else, or, they'd be losing these games. So, I got to give them a lot of credit. Last night they beat Toronto at home. David Pastrnak scored his 401st goals of his career, which puts him 1 behind Rick Middleton for 5th place in Bruins history. So he's obviously gonna pass that. I think Brad Marchand is next on the list, somewhere around 420-ish. We got 60 games left, 70. Probably. Let me think for a second. 20, 17. Probably 65 games left. He's easily going to get another 20-something goals. So I wouldn't be surprised if he passed Marchand too this year. If he's on a 35 or 40 goal pace, should be doable. And listen, he's been mixing it up. He's been, getting hit, taking hits. I don't want to see him get hurt or whatever, but he's not out there pulling like the old Wayne Gretzky or Mario Lemieux and complaining to the refs or whatever. He's holding his own, and I think he's really done a good job stepping up in the leadership role. And I'm not going to compare him directly to Ovechkin, but if you look at the way he plays a tough game. He doesn't shy away from contact, and I think Pasternak's doing a lot of the same thing. And so he also deserves a ton of credit for the way he's been playing and still being able to score goals and set goals up and stuff. So really encouraging to see. There is the usual negative Ned concern with the Bruins, as I say all the time. No 3-goal lead is ever safe with them. It doesn't matter if it's 3-0 or 4-1. They can't keep those leads. I don't know why. They let Toronto crawl back in. They allowed them to get within 1. Oh, excuse me. They're, but again, give them credit. They scored a huge power play goal. with 10 minutes left to pull away and get the 5-3 lead. And they did have a couple other times where they didn't cash in. I'm like, oh, it's going to burn them. But this time around, they actually did it. So, it's good. That guy that they got from, I think he's from Dallas, the guy that's the power play specialist guy, he's done a good job. They've all done a good job. You can see definitely this year, between this year and last year, their movement is better on the power play. They're getting shots off. And, like I said, if they're in the 23, 25% range and they're in the, 14, 13, whatever, it's a far cry from where they were last year when they were near the bottom. They were horrible. So, they just got to keep it up, keep it going. Like I said, Marco Sturm's done a pretty good job. I think that he's gotten more out of these guys than most coaches would probably get. So he deserves some credit. The guy I wanted, Joel Quenneville, who is in Anaheim now and has them in first place, is the guy I wanted. And so there's probably no way he was going to be able to come here because with the scandal and whatnot when he got fired from Florida, that whole thing that happened when he was coaching the Blackhawks, the Bruins don't want bad PR. It probably wasn't going to be good for them media relations wise or fan base wise. They avoided that. So, listen, when you're rebuilding, this is kind of like when the Patriots had Gerard Mayo last year. And I really thought that when they hired Sturm and the guys they signed, I was like, this is just going to be like the Patriots, only in hockey. And the Bruins are going to suck. And for them to be in second place right now with an 11-7 record, I have to give them some credit. After they lost 6 in a row or whatever it was, 5 out of 6, not good. So to see them beating the teams they beat Carolina, they beat Colorado, they beat Toronto, they're beating good teams. That's a good sign. That they're beating teams like this. They have Carolina coming up again this week, and this next week coming up. So, another test for them. Just a matter of them trying to shore some things up. But listen, I feel like last night's game in particular, there was a lot of chippiness, a lot of scrums. The guys are sticking up for each other, and they're not getting pushed around, which I like. If you've heard me on here over the last couple of years, every time they play Florida, they're getting pushed around. I can't stand it. So this is refreshing to see. And, ironically, Craig Berube, the coach of Toronto, who was the coach of St. Louis when they beat the Bruins here in 2019 for the Stanley Cup, there was a hit from Zadorov on Austin Matthews. It looked like he hit his head into the boards a little bit there. And, he was chirping and complaining after the game. And I don't feel sorry for him. Look, no, we don't want to see players getting hurt. I'm not condoning the hit, but I'm not going to stand for the whining after you complain to the refs after Game 3 in the Stanley Cup Finals and basically cost the Bruins the game when they put the whistles away. So the only thing I can say to you is F you. It's because I don't care. I feel like the Bruins, a lot of times when it comes to the refs and whatnot, they get the short end of the stick. I've been complaining about them for a long time. The NHL officiating is uneven. It's not consistent. They miss things they shouldn't. When they replay things, the Bruins get the shaft. So, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear the whining. I'm going to have to play you guys a couple more times. I'm sure it's going to be chippy. And, we'll see what happens. But, enjoy this. We're going to enjoy this while it lasts. If they, really When Frank was on here last week and the week before, and we were talking about, what's it going to take for me to jump on board. Same as before, like I told them, it's a marathon, not a sprint, and you really need a good 20 or 25 games to see where they're at. Well, they're already at 17, 18 games, so they're getting close. I would say by the end of this month, we're going to have a decent idea where they're at. So, kudos to them. And look, again, I don't. I know I got the negative Ned moniker, and I know that Frank's like, oh, you're such a negative Bruins fan and this and that, but I want to see him do good. Just that I get frustrated with them blowing the big leads. I get frustrated when they give up crappy goals near the end of the game and at the end of the periods. That drives me insane. So that's where a lot of the negativity comes from. And so I'm glad that they had a 3-goal lead and didn't blow it the other day. Mascot, where are you going? All right, listen. Excuse the team mascot's getting in the way here. Again, you rodent, where are you trying to go? Up there? Go ahead. Up you go. Pardon the interruption. Can't make up his mind what he wants to do there. But yeah, listen, they got a tough stretch of games coming up this coming week. They have Ottawa again. They have Montreal, who's on fire. They're in first place. They're really playing well. They got young guys that are scoring. So that's going to be a tough challenge. They have Carolina, and Carlo, I'll be positive for you. They're winning the cup. That's a little too positive. There's definitely not going to be a positive Pete there for that yet. That's way too early. All right, what are you doing? Listen, you are in the way. Come on out. Remind me to put you away next time. Okay, listen. No. I'm going to tell you the same thing I told Frank. I'm going to keep saying it. The Stanley Cup is not won in November. It's won in April and May, and they have a long way to go before they can even think about sniffing the cup. I mean, the year they were breaking the records, I said they weren't going to win the cup. So this year they would have to have a lot go right. They would have to get A+ Tim Thomas type goaltending from Swayman to win the cup, and they'd have to get the same grit that they had in 2011 when they won it. And look, they're playing gritty now, so that's not an issue. They're getting what they want. The management's getting what they want. They wanted to be an abrasive, tough team to play against. That's a good sign. That feels like Bruins hockey. But they have a tough road trip coming up too. They have to go to Anaheim, and I forget who else is on schedule. But they lost to Anaheim once. Anaheim's in first place. They just got through. They just got through winning 7 in a row. They just lost yesterday, the day before. So let's see how they do through Thanksgiving, and enjoy it while it lasts. And hopefully they don't get anybody seriously hurt, so that they can actually give us a good season. So Danny says he's got the Avs winning the cup. Again, the West is loaded. They're always going to be the favorites. You got Colorado, you got Winnipeg, you got Vegas, you got Anaheim. Throw them in there now as the dark horse nobody saw coming. You got Montreal playing out of their minds this year. You got Carolina as usual. New Jersey's playing well. They're in first place. You can't count Pittsburgh out with Crosby and company there. So, listen, it's still early. A lot can happen. But, second place, enjoy it while we got it. All right, watching the time, let's move on to the Patriots. The Patriots beat the Buccaneers 28-23. exciting game, good game by the Patriots. You know, I I did not have them winning this game. Excuse me, per usual. Negative Ned being negative Ned. I think Frank said that they could win the game, so he was probably right. But look, tough environment, tough team to play against. Baker Mayfield's playing well. They have a good defense, and this is just one of those things where you got to see it first with your own eyes. Seeing is believing. And again, give kudos and credit where credit is due. The Patriots are really, all phases of the game. The coaching's been good. The players have been good. They've been good in all three phases of the game. Is it going to be perfect? No. There's still some stupid, 15-yard penalties they get. Special teams are still getting penalties here and there. They had some turnovers, but overall, when you can go down there and get a W, how about them Pats? Yeah, hang on for a second with that, Kyle. We'll get to that in a minute. I want to talk about this game first, and we'll get to him. Listen, I'm going to give my takeaways. Frank and I usually give our 3 takeaways. He's not here. I'll give mine. To pass another big test. They beat Buffalo earlier, and they went on the road and beat a good team. Number 2, they made big plays on both sides of the ball at crucial times when they needed it. The touchdown they got with 2 seconds left on 4th and goal with Stephon Diggs, that was a huge play. They made some stops on defense in the fourth quarter when they needed to. Kyle McDaniel's back is huge. Yes, it is. We talked about it when he got hired. There's just something about him being able to get the most out of the quarterbacks that have been here. And, the whole Tom Brady history, we don't have to revisit that. But, he did good when Mac Jones was here. He did good with Garoppolo. He did good with Jacoby Brissett when they were all here. He did good with Mac Jones, and now he's doing good with Drake May. And so, listen, it is huge for him. And, without getting too far into it, because we're going to get to those plays, the offense just looks like a complete 180 from last year, which we were hoping it would, and it actually does. But let me get to my 3rd takeaway. This has been lacking around here for a long time. Game-breaking speed. Trevion Henderson and Williams there, I forget his first name, but the wide receiver, Kevin Williams, Calvin Williams, I forget his first name, but Williams, the wide receiver with a big play, 72-yard touchdown. Game-breaking plays. Boute's had some, 40-yard touchdown plays with speed, and so I'm gonna quote Elliott Wolf from last year about weaponizing the offense. Now you can say it's weaponized, and that's a great feeling. I can't remember the last time the Patriots had a running back that could break one like this guy can, and it's long overdue. And we just got to hope that he holds up, because the running back depth is sparse now. And we'll get to that too. But, talking about the game, again, not perfect. There are things that are frustrating. Hold on one second. They got to keep everybody healthy now at this point. Stevenson's still out with a toe injury. They lost Jennings, Terrell Jennings. one of the guys they signed. That's a little bit of a loss. But listen, this is going to sound like a broken record. We talked about it last week. We're going to keep talking about it. This is almost like a mini Bruins rant kind of a thing. They keep deferring the kicks and they keep giving up points on the opening drive. Will you guys please stop this? I know the whole thing about getting the ball first in the second half. It worked this week, right? But it isn't going to work every week. And so once take the effing ball and stop deferring so that the defense doesn't get waxed on the first drive every time. I don't understand why you guys can't rectify this. I don't know what the hell's going on. But they're not going to be able to do this against better teams. Buffalo, again, you got to play. Kansas City, teams with high-powered offense. The Colts, if you have to, and I think they are playing the Colts, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to double-check that. But listen, the Ravens, you're not going to be able to fall behind 7-0, 10-0, and then pull a rabbit out of your hat. It needs to get fixed. Giving up 3 points on opening drive, okay, you can live with that. But we're giving up touchdowns way too many times, and it's a wicked frustrating. And I'm sure Vrabel is all over it, but until we see it rectified and see it stopped, I'm going to keep coming on here and keep screaming for you guys to stop deferring the freaking kicks. Like I said, this isn't Tom Brady with the Super Bowl era. You're in rebuild mode. And I would like to see them just take the ball once. I'm kind of hoping they lose the toss this week to the Jets. And the Jets defer, and we take the ball and go right down and score and put them on their heels instead of the other way around. I don't want to see the Jets coming in here getting the opening touchdown tomorrow night when they play each other. We'll get to that later. But the opening drives are a concern. And listen, 11 seconds left in the first quarter. They're driving. Then he throws that bomb. Drake May throws a 72-yard. He throw it 72 yards, but, made a great throw. Williams with the speed gets open, and they make a huge play. And so, listen, these deep throws, Drake May didn't have his best game. I think he was 16 for 31, but 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, interception. He's making those long throws. He's got the best percentage in the league so far, as I know, of making those 20-plus yard throws. So, keep them coming. Then this is where the Patriots, so Tampa Bay goes up 10-7. The Patriots are driving to get it all the way down to the 4th and goal or whatever it is, 1st and goal. They get the ball, and they run it 3 straight times, get nothing. The ground game was not great, and I don't still know why they would even think about trying to run the ball anywhere near the middle with that guy Vita Vea in the middle clogging things up. I think the guy weighs like 350-plus pounds. He's like Vince Wilfork 2.0 in there. I don't know how you're going to run in there that close to the goal line. Shouldn't have tried it. That I was disappointed with the runs. But again, they got the ball down there, fourth and goal. There's 2 seconds left. I'm screaming for them to just kick the damn field goal, take the points on the road. I get animated when they lose points down there. But I give them all credit. Vrabel with the gutsy call, and the players for the execution. Now, if they don't make it and they get no points, we're going to come on here and we're going to hammer Vrabel and say, you dope, what are you doing? And then, get on the players. Oh, you should have caught that, or you guys suck. But I'm glad that it's a reverse now. I think last year, that's probably what would have happened. They would have missed that opportunity, and we would have cursed the hell out of them. And now we actually have talent there to help make these plays happen. And so I'm excited, and got to give these guys a ton of credit. So again, they get the ball to start the third, and then Trevion Henderson busts one. I have to do this because he breaks 155 yards for a touchdown, puts the Pats up 21-10 early in the third quarter. The preseason runs we saw from him, breaking one for a touchdown and then breaking the kickoff return or whatever that was. I mean, this is what we need to see. We need game-breaking plays, and he's fitting the bill. Now, I know that there's concern about him not being able to pick up blitz coverage, blocks, whatever. That'll come. He was good at it in college. I'm sure he'll be able to figure it out at some point. But they've badly needed a home run hitter at the running back position, and they finally got one. So kudos to him. Kudos to the line. They did a good job opening up the hole for him to run through. Again, not their best game, but not a lot of penalties. I think the penalties are going down. They're getting better at that. And again, the offensive line is just a complete 180 from last year. It's way better than it was. The receivers actually have time to get open. Drake May has, for the most part, had some time back there to make plays. He's getting hit a lot. He's been sacked a lot. But it's still better than it was. So, the Patriots, both teams, couple 3-and-outs, whatever. Patriots get the ball. Patriots get the ball down at the 2-yard line, and they have a chance to really break the game open. And Drake May throws an interception down there, and I'm screaming at the TV, dude. You gotta throw that away, man. You gotta throw that away. Take the points. You can't Brett Favre it down there. That gunslinger crap. That might work in college. It don't work here. Bad pick, horrible turnover. Don't like seeing that. And dude, Tom Brady the thing into the stands, please. You want to emulate him at all a little bit. Just throw that thing away. But the fact that they're able to move the ball the way they are, even though they had some stops, they had some 3-and-outs. And I think Drake May said it. They left some plays on the field. That was probably one of them, amongst others. So after a couple 3-and-outs, the Tampa Bay drove down to the Tampa Bay. The Tampa Bay drove down to the Patriots 27, and they went for it on 4th and 3. And the Patriots came up with a huge stop to get the ball back. And so, the defense, they are rounding out to becoming one of the better defensive units in the league. And look, I wasn't ready to put them in the top 5 or whatever like Frank was. Frank was like, they might be top 3, top 5. I really wanted to see what they could do when they're healthy. They still have not allowed a running back to rush for more than 50 yards in a game. That is incredible through 10 games. That they were getting chewed up wicked bad last year. They were horrible against the run last year, if anybody remembers correctly. I mean, they couldn't stop a nosebleed. But what they're doing this year is just phenomenal. And they're going to continue to need that. But they're getting, they look faster on defense. The linebackers look faster. The secondary looks faster. They've minimized some of the mistakes. They're going to give up plays. They're going to give up 20-yard catches, but they're not getting beat deep for touchdowns like they were last year. And, again, I think it's the bend but don't break mentality. Between the 2 20-yard lines, they'll give you whatever you want. But when you get in the red zone, they're doing a pretty good job of minimizing that damage and making some stops. And so it wasn't a red zone stop, but it was close enough to it where they were going to put points on the board. and they made a huge play there and stopped him. So, there was another one later on where they sacked Baker Mayfield. Cleveon Chason made on. He got another sack, I think, this week. So look, they get the ball back, and Henderson again breaks another one, 69 yards, and gives kind of a look over to the sideline to say, "Hey, should I score or not?" I think there was about $1.50 left in the game, minute and a half left, and he's looking over there for the sign to score. They let him score, which to me was the right call. So they go up 28-16, and then Tampa goes right down the field, and makes it 28-23. So I'm glad they scored, because if they didn't and they tried to run the clock out, and this is where sports radio was kind of going crazy about he should have went down. You only gave them 4 seconds left, this and that, because they would have had to use all their timeouts and I'm like, listen. They needed to put the points on the board. Just put the points on the board. Stop screwing around with fate. A lot can happen when you try to run the clock out. There can be a fumble, especially the way Drake May's fumbling. On the kneel downs, somebody gets pushed. And again, the whole scripted with the referees nonsense. I don't even want to get into that. But, or let's say there's 4 seconds left and you're going to kick a field goal on 4th down just to put a little more breathing room, and you didn't get the touchdown, and it's not 28-16. You're trying to make it 24-16. It gets blocked. They run it back. You lose the game. That would remind me of like the Las Vegas Raiders game a couple of years ago when Mac Jones was here with Jacoby Myers when they did the lateral backwards. I mean, guy's got nobody near him, has time to look at the coach and say, "Hey, should I score?" Yeah. Dude, score. Especially with the other games where the guy held the ball out and dropped it before the end zone, didn't score. Like, stop being stupid. Stop that. If I was the coach, I would tell him every time, run it in. Unless you're blowing them out, obviously. If you're up by 2 touchdowns and there's a minute left, maybe, kneel it down and then run the clock out. But when the game is still that close, you don't have that much breathing room. It's 21-16. No, put the ball in the end zone, put the points on the board, especially on the road. Really try to take the wind out of their sails and deflate them. No pun intended for the folks around here. I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. I don't want stupidity. I don't want to lose a game on a stupid thing where there's a fumbled snap, or kneel down gets messed up, or field goal gets blocked. Nope. I don't want any part of any of that nonsense. Put some breathing room between you. You're not going to have a lot of those. Take advantage. Put the points on the board. And, to me, it feels better to put the points on the board and say that the Patriots, they've scored 265 points this year in 10 games already. They're averaging 26.5 points a game. Last year, they scored 289 points total for the whole year in 17 games. That's 17 points a game. It's totally different. It feels different. And, having Josh McDaniels here is definitely, you can see the receivers. Frank talked about this. The receivers were good enough. They're better this year, obviously, with Diggs and Mac Hollins and, Williams and so forth. But, and Butte having a breakout year. But it's better. It's way better. And it is good. And I before I get to the Jets game, I do now want to mention, Gronk signed a 1-day contract to retire as a Patriot. He's going to have the Patriots Hall of Fame jacket. He's going to be a Hall of Famer, obviously. Never wanted to see him leave. But if he did have to leave, he goes to Tampa with Tom Brady, wins the Super Bowl. I'm not upset about that at all. And I want to say something now because it's going to come around again. I don't care what people say about Travis Kelce. He's a glorified wide receiver. He doesn't block. the way Gronk did. Gronk was, uh, you know, all around complete tight end, and you know that's rare. He's one of the best tight ends ever, and so he's way better than Kelsey in my opinion, hands down. No comparison, no nothing. Travis Kelsey's good catching the ball, but he's no Gronk. I'm sorry. The way Gronk could take on blockers, and how many guys it would take to get him down. Um, he was just pure brute strength. And I still remember that one when I think they were playing the Colts, and the guy was chirping at him, and he tossed him, 15 yards out of the end zone or whatever. He said, "I threw him out the club." That's one of the all-time great moments for him. And so, I'm happy he's retired as a Patriot, and we'll look forward to all the Hall of Fame stuff and accolades. And personality-wise, he's a funny dude. And so, happy to see the success that he's having in the media with Fox. I got to watch the time a little bit. I do want to touch on the Jets tomorrow night before we move on. I have 3 keys. They are no mistakes, no turnovers, no interceptions near the end zone, no fumbles, Drake May, no fumbles by the running backs, no turnovers. You can't have any of that. You can't give that team life at all. I don't care what their record says. The division games are always tough with these guys, and I don't want to see any mistakes. That includes stupid penalties too. So I just don't want to see it. They have to continue to pound the rock. I know, take away the 2 big runs, and they ran 12 times for 13 yards or whatever it is, but you can't give up on the run. You have to keep them honest, and I'm kind of hoping you run it down their throat. And my last one is give them nothing on offense. Don't make them look better than they are. Don't give them big plays. Don't give them any breathing room at all. They are missing. Garrett Wilson will be out, their top wide receiver, but that doesn't mean that they don't have guys that can make plays. Breece Hall is a real good running back. I'd be worried about him. And, let's go Patriots. Go tomorrow night. Let's move on. We have to talk about the Celtics. Celtics are struggling. It's very disappointing the way they're playing. Their record is 5-7. They're in 11th place in the conference. I think they're second or third to last in the division. They're not making shots. They're not making 3-pointers the way they were last year. It's incredibly frustrating to watch them. They're shooting 28% from 3 or whatever it is. It's terrible. And they have guys that are struggling. Oh, excuse me. Derek White's struggling. Pritchard's struggling. Jaylen Brown's struggling. I think he was 1 for 5 or 1 for 6 in one of the games. He's not shooting very well. So look, Missoula's got to figure it out and rectify it somehow. Over the course of the 3 games they played before tonight, they are shooting less threes. I think they're shooting 37 or 38 threes and not 51 like last week. But now they're not going in either way, and it's a real problem. Against Orlando in the first game, they had a bad first quarter. I mean, they got up 38 points. They couldn't stop them. They couldn't do anything. And Orlando, again, kind of like when they played the Rockets, they were just hot and they couldn't do anything. Just a bad first quarter, and they never really recovered. I think they were 13 for 37 from 3, which is 35%, which is a little bit below where you want to see them, but it wasn't horrendous. They just they couldn't catch up. And, Frank and I said this last week, Orlando's been giving them fits for 3 years now. All 3 years that we've been doing this show, Orlando's been a thorn in their side, no matter what. And they can't fix it. I don't know what the what the issue is with them. But, again, it's obvious they're missing Jason Tatum. They're missing, the guys that they had to get rid of in the off season. But, they need Jaylen Brown to step up. And he does in spurts. But, for all the talk that we've had with Brown and Tatum being together, about Brown wanting to be number one and being overshadowed, dude, this is your opportunity. And look, he doesn't shy away from, wanting to be the guy or anything like that. He just needs to get it and get it together. He can score 32 points in a game and take over. He can score 27 points in a game. But the other areas, like the ball handling, a little bit of that, frustrating. Passing. Look, the second game when they played them, they were way better in that game when they played Orlando. They did shoot better. They were 13 for 33 from three, which is 39%. Anthony Simons, 25 points in 22 minutes off the bench. He was 5 of 8 from three. He is basically Vinnie Johnson, the microwave 2.0. I would like to see him get a little more playing time. And we talked about this last week with Frank, where, I think Pritchard is better defensively, but when you're struggling on offense, man, you got to just get the guy's got the hot hand. You got to get him the ball and keep him cooking. Derek White's cold, and if he's cold, you can't. This is the same thing. This is the same thing I used to say when Al Horford would struggle, right, with the threes, and he was like 0 for 7 from three, and he'd be wide open. I'm like, I don't care if he's wide open. You can't take a three. Market smart. You're wide open. You can't take a three. Sorry. So Derek White's got the voodoo now. I don't know what his issue is, and I like him. Listen, I'm not dogging these guys. I like them. They brought us a championship, so this is not the, I'm not going to go full negative net on them, but it's definitely different now for these guys to be the man in their spots. With Pritchard starting, not coming off the bench, and with Derek White having a more prominent role offensively, I think that they're feeling the heat a little bit. And I hate seeing it. And listen, I know they're not gonna make all the shots. I want to see a few more of them go in for him and for Pritchard. He's been cold. Sam Howes has been cold. And the sad part is, like I said to Frank last week, and it's still happening, they're getting open looks. They're finding their ball movement isn't as sharp as when you had Horford and Tatum and Porzingis or whatever. But they're still finding the open guy, and the open guy is getting the shots, and they're not going in. And so that's frustrating. Hopefully they can fix it and start making some of these. And again, I get frustrated when they have open looks from 15 or 18 feet. They kick it back out. Like, you had a look right there, get the two. They don't take it. And like we said, all teams do it. They all do it. I don't watch a lot of NBA basketball, but I've seen some games I was watching where they did the same thing as the Celtics. The guy gets in the paint, he's there, he's got easy shot, go for two, nope, kicks it back out for a three. I'm like, you guys are stupid. So it's not just the Celtics' problem, but and they're not forcing up as many bad shots as they were a few years ago. When we were calling them the New England Brickmasters. But Derek White did last night in clutch time near the end there in last night's game. From 39 feet away, throws up a three, doesn't make it. That's a game that's wicked frustrating. They had an 8-point lead with 7 minutes left. And I know the leads that late don't, you can have a 20-point lead with 7 minutes left. That can be gone. I get it. But they had chances, And, they're down by one with 33 seconds left. 199. Jaylen Brown gets fouled, goes to the line, has 2 free throws, misses the first one, makes the second one. I feel like for him, when it gets late in the games, inside of 5 minutes, he has a habit of missing a lot of free throws. He misses the first free throw a lot, or just misses them in general. I feel like his free throw percentage late in the games is 50%. And that's an awful thing to have to say. But that's got to get cleaned up, dude. I mean, if you're missing free throws like that, you should be shooting 1,000 free throws a day. That's for a guy that wants to be paid and be treated like, one of the 10 best players in the league. You got some work to do there. And again, I'm not trying to dog him. I like him. For the 3 years we've been on here, as many people have been trying to run him out of town. I don't want to run him out of town. I don't want him to leave because he's a good player. But I feel like sometimes in the clutch situations, he's not coming through. And so, again, if you want to be the man, your opportunity is now. You gotta clean some of that stuff up. So look, they had a couple tough losses. They were winning. I want to say like 28-17 against Memphis at the start of the show. And this is a game they need to win because, Memphis is 4-8. They're kind of in the same boat as you. They're finding themselves. And, you just can't afford to lose. They have games coming up this week. Here's what's concerning too. I want to point this out. The Celtics record is 2-5 in clutch games, which are games where the game is within 5 points in the final 5 minutes. That's not a good sign. That's not a good sign if you want to make the playoffs. And listen, I'll stick to my guns. I've said it the whole time that I still think they can get 45 to 48 wins without Tatum and make the playoffs. I still feel that way. They're talented enough. They're good enough. The shots just aren't going in. And they're making dumb mistakes at the wrong times sometimes. And I hope that Missoula can figure out the rotations and make it so that we get a little more Anthony Simons when he's hot. If he makes 5 out of 6 or 5 out of 8 or whatever, don't take him out of the game, Dobie. I mean, what are you doing? He's the opposite of Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart would be 1 for 8. You leave him in there, let him shoot an open 3. No. This guy's making threes. This guy's making shots. He's incredible. So I don't want to see him, on the bench, especially late in the game. He seems like a pretty good ball handler, and I don't believe that he's there to be the point guard. You have Derek White for that, or Pritchett. Both of them are the ball handler guys. Mix match them both and put them out there and put him with either Derek White or Pritchett when you need a bucket. That should be a no-brainer, especially when you have Tatum out and you don't have that scoring that you need. So I'm kind of looking forward to see what they can do this week. They have 3 winnable games coming up. We'll get to when we get to the predictions. But they're playing teams that are 1-10 coming up. You can't lose those games. Can't happen. All right. Let me watch the clock here before I get myself in trouble. We're going to move on to the poll questions. The weekly poll. We had, where are you? We had one poll question, and I asked this question because of all the scuttlebutt on sports radio. Do you think Trevion Henderson should have scored on his second TD or went down to help kill the clock? Yes, don't give Tampa any life. Got 0, which means yes, go down and kill the clock. And no, put the points on the board 100%. I still say you put the points on the board. You don't tempt fate, unless it's really out of reach. That's just my 2 cents on it. That's how I feel. Let's move on now to the weekly predictions. Where are we here? Right here. Here we go. Let's see. I said the Patriots would beat Atlanta and lose to Tampa Bay. That was a 2-part prediction. So and it was wrong. They beat Atlanta, but they lost to beat Tampa. So I got it wrong. Par for the course. Next one, I said, excuse me. Trevion Henderson gets his first 100-yard rushing game and would break one for 50 or 60 yards. Ding, ding, ding. He not only had one game-breaking touchdown run, he had 2 and went over 100 yards, 147 yards on 14 carries. So I finally got another one right. And that's with Frank on the show. That almost never happens. Next one, I said the Bruins would win 1 and lose 2. I thought they would lose versus Ottawa the night we were on, and split versus Washington. I was not Washington, Toronto. Sorry, I was wrong. They won all 3. Wrong. Next, I said that Jeremy Swayman will get a shutout in one of the games versus Toronto. Wrong. Wrong. No shutouts. He did play both games, though, and they gave up 3 goals both games. And I would say he played pretty good. I mean, some of those goals really weren't his fault. I said the Celtics would split, and they would split versus Orlando and lose to Philly and beat Memphis. But since they're playing Memphis tonight, that part of the prediction has to wait till next week. And so I'm going to give myself half credit for getting the split with Orlando right and losing to Philly right. So if that had been just 3 games, that would have been a right prediction. And I'll just give myself a half a pat on the back since Frank's not here. Because I know he'd be like, nope. You still got it wrong. And then I said that Josh Minot would average 20-plus points per game the next 4 games. Wrong. He got 12, 0, and 3 before tonight's game. So not even close. Sad state of affairs over here. Back to being the Washington Generals of predictions for straight shooters here. And we'll do Frank's predictions. Frank said that Terrell Jennings would be the 100-yard rusher because they wouldn't be keying on him. And that Mac Hollins would be the one to have a breakout game. And so he got half that prediction right. Jennings actually left with an injury. And Mac Hollins got 6 receptions for 106 yards. So he did have a breakout game. And again, to his point last week when he was on, Josh McDaniels is going to find, who the defense is going to key on and then use that guy that they're not looking at. And Hollins was that guy last week, that they weren't looking at. To get open and make plays. He said the Bruins will be 2-1 in the next 3 games. Wrong, because they won all 3. And he said they would be 1-3 in the next 4 games. And the Memphis game is to be determined. And so I'm going to leave that there until it gets complete for our next show. And then he said Josh Minot would average 3 blocks, 3 steals. I actually didn't look at what he did. I'm going to assume that he did not get either of those for now, only because he got no points and 3 points in 2 of those games. I said he was going to get 20. So I think he played sporadic, limited minutes. But I promised to look at it and see if he was right or not, and we'll have an update for next week. And and we'll see what's happening. All right. So now this week's predictions. I have a bunch for this week. Hold on. This week's predictions, I have I have Pop Douglas having the big game this week. He'll have 80 to 100 yards. And I'm not making that part of the prediction. I'm just saying he's going to have a big game. And that's the range I think he might get in. I think the defense is going to get a touchdown this week. The Jets, you should be able to capitalize on them. I think we force a turnover and we get a touchdown. The Bruins will win 1 and lose 3. They'll beat Ottawa, they'll lose to Montreal, and they'll lose to Carolina and lose to Anaheim when they start hitting the West Coast. So I'm sticking my neck out again. I may have to just be like, win 1 and lose 3 and not be so specific, but I don't see them beating Montreal the way they're playing in Montreal. And a rematch with Carolina, I don't see them winning that, and I don't see them beating Anaheim the way they're playing right now. So I'm going on a limb here, being a little more specific. So we'll see. And I say the Celtics will be 3-0, including tonight's game. Memphis, they should beat them. And they have the Clippers who are 3-7, and they have Brooklyn who's 1-10. You can't lose those last 2 games. I don't care what the records say. They have to find a way to win these games to get back on track. So that is my 2 cents there. At this time, we will say goodnight. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for the support. Thanks for watching. Thanks for voting in the polls. Be sure to check us out on YouTube. Go Patriots tomorrow night, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace.